Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. We just hit 35.3k subscribers. Can we get to 36k by the end of the month? Please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel before we get started. But today we have to talk about Joe Biden's approval rating, and it is going off the rails right now and it is cratering at the moment. Joe Biden's favorable rating was low. It was actually lower than Donald Trump's. It was roughly around where Trump's job approval was, a couple percentage points lower, I believe, at the time. Trump was at 46% job approval and Biden was at 45%. Things have taken a massive change since then. Right now, you can see Biden's favorable rating sits at 41%. His unfavorable rating sits at 47%. Keep in mind that Hillary Clinton lost when her favorable rating was 42% and Trump's favorable rating was 37 to 38%. Right now, if you look at Donald Trump's job approval, it's sitting right there at 45% right now, when only 50.5% disapprove. Honestly, when you factor out undecideds, it's probably something like 47% approve, 52%, 53% disapprove. Joe Biden's right now, as I said and as I mentioned and as I predicted, is actually going off the rails. If you look at his approval rating back then, he was doing okay. He was, up in some polls, tied in some other polls. His favorable rating was low, but his unfavorable rating was also low. Now his favorable rating is going down and his unfavorable rating is actually going up and increasing. And we can look at this and we can talk about why that is, but you can even see in the individual polls. YouGov, he went down 3. Politico, he went down 2. Emerson hasn't really released a poll since the big unearthing of the allegations, where Biden was at 40% favorable and 41% favorable, but common knowledge would basically indicate that that could go down too. And this also doesn't actually include the Civics poll that has Biden's favorable rating in the mid-30s, where he's actually underwater in California. No, I do not trust that, but I think it's funny and I think it's interesting to look at because it's kind of worthwhile to see why that may be. But right now, as Biden's lead in the national aggregate decreases from what it was a couple months ago to 13%, it's gone down to 7, 6, 5, and that continues the crater. And a lot of people are going to say, will Biden really be that trusted? If you look at this, we're in a national crisis. Back in 2008, John McCain had questions about his health and his age during the national crisis that was uncovered after the Bush administration. And it wasn't necessarily just a party vote reason why people opposed McCain. Yes, McCain had experience, but at the same time, a lot of people ditched McCain because they didn't really trust his judgment. You're going to see a lot of similar things with Joe Biden because in certain polls, like CNBC, like YouGov, where Trump is actually losing to Biden, the polls still say that people still will trust Donald Trump over Joe Biden to deal with the economic recovery, which is huge right now because a lot of people usually blame the incumbent president for an economic downturn. This one's a little bit difficult to blame on Donald Trump. I think a lot of the blame is going to go on China, which Joe Biden, they say China Joe, is really connected to. And then you have these rhino companies that are so dumb and foolish that release their garbage ads about, Ivanka had clothing made in China, therefore Blumph is finished. Yeah, right, give me a break, I don't want to hear it. But right now, in terms of the data standpoint, which apparently I've been chastised by people I'm not going to mention in this video, but I've been chastised for not using enough data. Basically, they think polls are the be-all and end-all of data. That's completely not true. I use more data than they do. I use trends. I use long-term trends, long-term swings. I actually make maps for a living, unlike what some other people do, that basically showcase the long-term trends of certain areas, as well as focusing on things like party ID registrations that they always don't look into. But basically, what I do look at in terms of data and what I'm looking at for this election cycle, because it's very difficult to use the polls in May 6th of an election year, because over the past 3 election cycles, they've been absolutely wrong and they've been absolutely abysmal. Over the last 3 election cycles, the polling aggregate for May 6 showed a 4.2% bias in favor of the loser of the election. So by this logic, Biden would actually win the popular vote by 1.1%, which really would indicate with the long-term trends, he would probably lose 210 to 328. Trump would win the 2016 states. Trump would add New Hampshire. Trump would add Maine at large, and Trump would add Nevada and Minnesota, getting him to 328. So there's the data, because I'm looking at this right now, and it's not looking too bad for Trump in the general aggregate. But right now, Trump's approval, even when you use it by the net approval, because Biden's net favorable rating is lower, but the unfavorable rating is also lower. But Trump's net approval rating is -6, -5.9. Biden's net unfavorable is -6, and the polling aggregate does not necessarily take into consideration the Emerson poll that was done before the allegations had been unearthed. But basically, the Monmouth poll, which is a weird poll because they only use 700 people, and people act like Monmouth is like the gold standard for elections sometimes. 538 gives it an A+ rating, which is a total and complete joke if you ask me. But Monmouth shows it at -3. Last poll, I believe, from Monmouth had it at -1. So even in the poll where he gained in this week, he actually lost in favorable rating. Right now, you see it at -6 for Joe Biden. Could this be the beginning of the end for Joe Biden? Because basically, and I tweeted about this, make sure you follow me on Twitter, guys, at RedEaglePatriot. I do great analysis on Twitter. I tweeted earlier today this data from YouGov that showed 54% of Americans want an FBI investigation into Joe Biden. That's 54% of Americans. Only 20% of Americans oppose it, and only 12%, so 88% of people say this allegation is relevant to the election. And if you look at the facts surrounding it, if you watch Joe Biden's interview, I really suggest you, if there's any undecided voters out there, because a lot of these people that are watching this video either have their mindset one way or another. That's the internet. That's how the internet works. That's how YouTube works. If you are an undecided voter, I would really recommend you go and you watch the interview over again, because it seems like Biden didn't exactly have the perfect answers. It was scripted, but he was forgetting the script. If you look at how Donald Trump handles his allegations that have been thrown his way, he handles them like a champ. He handles them like an innocent guy. Biden's kind of got that slimy, creepy response type. Yeah, I don't think he's that innocent. I actually didn't believe the woman at first, but when you look at the facts and the fact she was able to corroborate her story fairly well, I think it's going to be relevant. At a very minimum, it looks like it was sexual harassment at the point of Joe Biden. May not have been actually assault. We'll have to wait and we'll have to see in that factor. But either way, it seems like Joe Biden is slipping in the polls. He's slipping in favorable rating, which is the key thing. It really seems like if he has a low favorable rating and he's already got a terrible enthusiasm gap, Trump voters are fired up to vote for Trump. Biden trails in the enthusiasm gap by like 40 points right now, and that's probably going to even get bigger. That's going to show a problem for the long term. Primary turnout kind of favored Joe Biden, but not really, because it wasn't even as good as it was in 2008, but it was better than 2016. However, Donald Trump did extremely well compared to other past incumbent presidents, things like Barack Obama's campaign in 2012, Bush in 2004. I think he's already broken the record for the most votes for an incumbent president in history. And by the way, New York is not even voting. Pennsylvania hasn't voted yet. There's many states that actually canceled their primaries, and Trump still is going out there and breaking all of these records, which is pretty phenomenal and pretty awesome. Not just for the short term, but for the long term. He's got the energized base. They're going out there. They're standing in line to vote for Donald Trump by the 100,000s in the middle of a global pandemic when Trump is running unopposed. Trump has that base behind him. Joe Biden doesn't. Biden's base is the #resist, #orangemanbadpeople. And they are out there, and they are numerous, but they are not 50% of the country. They may be 40%, they may even be 45%, but they're not 50%. And you need 50% really to get on your side to win. Besides, it's not even the point. Some of these people that are orange man bad are also going to be never Biden. So I would really assume that roughly 40% of the population that's going to vote is vote blue no matter who. Biden's going to be able to get 5 to 6% of other voters. Trump's base is another 40% in the electorate, probably more like 45%. So what you have here is an election that is very, very, very much up in the air. It is up for grabs for either party, and we're going to have to watch it. I don't want to hear anybody that's going to sit there and complain, oh, you don't use the data, because I'm presenting the data right here. I've literally made maps in nearly every state talking about long-term swings, talking about long-term trends, talking about how the electorate is shaping up, analyzing the midterm data, analyzing the 2016 data, analyzing data even back from 2012, showing the long-term trends and showcasing the long-term trends. So I don't want to hear any comments saying, oh, it's biased. Yes, I am biased. I have a personal favorite. It's fairly clear and fairly obvious who that is. But at the same time, I don't base the objectivity of my predictions on it personally. I do think that Donald Trump would have lost to Tulsi Gabbard probably around 278 to 260. I do think there's a very small chance Trump loses as well to Biden, but we'll have to see. Personally, he's got the base behind him. It's just very hard for an average person to conceive a situation where this old man with borderline dementia goes out there and beats the king of energy himself, who actually, contrary to popular belief, has prevented hundreds and hundreds of thousands of deaths during this horrible thing that's going on. May have to make a video on that sometime because I know we're going to get some pushback in the comment section from it, but we have the data. Trump's putting the data in his ads anyways, so we'll see how it ends up at the end of the day, but right now, looking at it, Trump's approval rating is better than Joe Biden's, despite the fact that Trump lost last election by having a approval rating that was below Hillary Clinton's by 4 to 5%. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, join the Discord and subreddit, donate to the Patreon, and subscribe. Star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.